Story 1. There is no standard amount. It depends on you or the couple. As long as nothing is causing harm and there are no arguments, it is normal. Story 2. When I was 20, I was not getting intimate at all and did not become intimate again for several years. Work on yourself and be awesome. Story 3. Depends on the couple. Some once a week, some twice a day for the first amount of time until the normal drop-off. Story 4. There is no normal. Some couples are intimate a few times a week, some once a month, and some not at all. When I was 20 with my first girlfriend, it was about once a week, sometimes less. We were both new and figuring things out. No one keeps score, and it changed over time. It is all about what feels good for both of you. No one worth your time will be upset that you have not had sex before. Story 5. It depends on what you and your partner both want. My partner and I had times of 2 times a day, 7 days a week, and times of once a week, sometimes even less. Do not stress yourself about the amount. In the end, sexual compatibility is really important for any long-lasting relationship, so just look for people with similar needs as you. Story 6. Normal does not exist, and it is a foolish metric to chase. What is normal for some would be a dry spell for others and an abundance for others. There is no proper amount. I was blessed and cursed with a pretty high drive when it comes to sex. Meeting a woman who matches that drive has always been a challenge. In my 50s now, I can only think of one partner who matched me in drive, and we tended to go several times every night we spent together. Meanwhile, my ex-wife thought it was cute to withhold physical intimacy when she did not get her way. Obviously, we were not a good match long-term, even though we did have a child together while married. It's a gamble. It should never be your primary focus, but it is false to say it is not important. Just find someone with whom you share chemistry and remember that your needs matter too. So do not let them be overlooked or ignored in hopes of finding some idealized normal, which will never exist. Story 7. I have met couples who are intimate once a month or less, and some who are intimate once a day. It really depends on the couple in question. Story 8. To echo what others have said, there is no normal amount. At some points in my life, I would take it anytime, anywhere. Now that I am older, in my mid-40s, I find myself honestly saying, meh, not tonight. I might change my tune next week or next month, but it is a mature realization that I am finally okay admitting that to myself and a partner. Hopefully, you get there sooner than I did. For the record, I am not saying less sex is better, or that you will definitely crave it less as you get older. It is like a decadent meal. Sometimes you are in the mood, and other times you just want a sandwich. What is important is that both parties get their long-term needs met and are comfortable being honest with each other. Story 9. With my former girlfriend, we were intimate almost 3 times a week most weeks, but actual sexual intercourse was maybe 3 to 5 times a month. Edit. Do not expect to reach a point where you are having sexual intercourse at all, just because you are talking to someone. Story 10. Depends on a couple. My husband and I have been together for 6 years. Usually, it is something between 1 and 4 times a week. I would prefer more, but he has a lower drive. I am happy if it is at least 2 times a week, and I can masturbate in between. If it is less than once a week, I start getting anxious about the attachment. Story 11. For me, as a woman, 4 times a week if we live together, 2 to 3 times if we are not living together. 4 seems reasonable to me since I am young, I have a libido, I like sex, but I dislike the idea of sex every day. It is too much pressure. 4 seems doable. Also, the 4 is not necessarily 4 times 1 sex per day, but maybe there is a day with 2 to 3 rounds and a day with 1 with multiple days without sex. It is turbulent and not orderly for me. Difficult situations happen. Sometimes we feel low, though I would say to each their own. Some people want no sex at all. Others want to have it 3 times a day every day. It really is a spectrum. Story 12. Once a month seems to be a good baseline to work on if you are trying to figure out what to expect. More than that is great. Less than that can start to leave people lacking. Story 13. Don't worry about normal in that regard. It is individual for each couple and it has to work for both of you. My wife and I do not have sex at all. Yet we love each other very deeply on a level I did not believe existed before I met her. I think we did it 5 or 6 times in the 10 years we have been together. Story 14. Like you said yourself, it is different for each couple and often varies depending on the stage of the relationship they are in. There is no wrong or right, so there is no need to worry. Just talk about it with your partner. You will find your way. At the moment, you are just overthinking it. Story 15. Normal does not exist. The frequency, inclination, and intensity vary widely not only from couple to couple but often for the same couple. Story 16. What is the normal amount of sex that you should have per week or month? Do not delude yourself. There is no universal rule to determine if someone is asking for too much or too little sex. Couples need to figure out for themselves how to manage their sexual wants and needs. The important thing to determine is not what is a normal amount, but whether you are a good communicator and willing to accept the various options if your sexual desires do not match. Story 17. There is no normal. Everyone has different needs. If your and your partner's needs align, you are good. If your needs differ, communication and compromise are required. If your needs are very different, then your relationship will take more work or may falter. Story 18. Don't worry about that. It will come naturally once you are in a hopefully caring relationship. There is no need to put pressure on yourself. You do not want it to become like a chore. You both should enjoy it, not do it to reach a quota. So, throw yourself into the relationship, see how you feel, and act on that feeling. Story 19. It completely varies. I have had relationships where we have sex every day, and others where it has been once a month. It is like asking what the normal amount of time to spend watching television together is. It completely depends on the relationship itself, the participants in the relationship, and the circumstances at play. If both partners are happy, it is the right amount. If one of you is unhappy, then it is time to communicate. Story 20. Depends on you and your partner. If you ask me, it would be 3 times a week. If you ask one of my former partners, it would be never. Story 21. A 43-year-old married man here. I would say once a week is the bare minimum, and that is coming from me whose sex life is practically non-existent, about once every 6 weeks, sometimes a little more than that. Story 22. Don't pressure yourself so much. The amount doesn't matter. Sure, you can say that an average of 3 to 5 times a week is healthy, but if you and your future partner are intimate every day and have sex 3 times a day, that is totally fine too. Don't try to find a fixed amount on Reddit and stick to that. Go by how you feel. You got this. Also, don't be ashamed if you haven't had sex yet or for being inexperienced. I know our generation, at 21 years old, is often described as focused on sex but lacking in love, but please don't be ashamed. You will attract the right person by being yourself. Story 23. There is no normal amount of sex. Some people want more, some want less. More than likely, it will change regularly. When I was 18, I wanted sex 10 or 12 times a day if I could get it. Now, at age 62, I only want it 6 or 8 times a day. Things change. Story 24. I am a 25-year-old male and my girlfriend is 24 years old. We both have very high drives. We are in a medium-distance relationship, living 3 hours apart. It is not an everyday thing for us, but when we see each other, it varies from 1 to 5 times a day easily. On average, I would say 10 to 15 times a week and 40 to 60 times a month. Story 25. The way to avoid what you are worried about is not to have any expectations for sex. It happens when it happens. Your partner should not be upset because you are not meeting their sex quota. The alternative is having sex you do not want to, and if they want that, they are definitely in the wrong. Just be yourself and communicate honestly. There are no secrets to this. Honesty and effort are the best you can do. Story 26. Tell your partner you have never had sexual intercourse before and would appreciate some guidance. Trust me, if they are supportive, they are good people. If they are not, it is not worth your time. Frequency varies. Some prefer twice a day, some every weekend. Lifestyle and health really matter in this regard. Story 27. Normal can be anything from 0.03 times to 28 times a week, all depending on the people in the relationship. Story 28. To be honest, it really depends. In new relationships, it can be very frequent, like once a day or even more. Once you settle down with one person, the frequency can vary widely depending on libido. Once every few weeks can be perfectly normal, or it can be normal to have it multiple times a week. Communication and mutual understanding are really key. There is no amount that you should be having. If you find a good match, you can communicate about it and find a rhythm that works for both of you. Story 29. In a perfect world, I would have sex every day. Most women are not interested in this. As long as I am not masturbating more than having sex. Story 30. For my wife and me, daily or at worst every other day. She used to track how often we had sex, and the average over 4 years was 330 days a year. Sometimes we skipped a day or two, sometimes twice a day. We have been together about a decade at this point. Story 31. In a relationship at age 20, the early stage is driven by hormones causing intense desire. Can occur up to 20 times a week. This phase passes and usually resets to about once a day. Story 32. My husband and I have been married for almost 41 years next month, and I have never once turned him down. Why would I? But when he knows that I am sick or just had a baby, he wouldn't ask. I say that our average is still 3 times a week. I am 65 and he is 71. Story 33. In college, 5 times a week at most. Women liked artists, so it was easy to attract women by being both strong and interesting. Story 34. I prefer daily and have never been bored of my partner. I honestly do not grasp that concept. If I am attracted to her, I want it as much as she will give. I have a high and insatiable appetite. Story 35. Normal is whatever you and your partner both want. If one of you wants it a lot and the other does not, and the one with the lower drive just accepts it, there will likely be a lot of resentment from both sides. Story 36. The one that works for you and your sexual drive. Your overall health is a factor, but so is your mental state and environment. You should not have sex to meet a specific number of times per week goal. Story 37. There is no obligation. You could have sexual intercourse 3 times a day or go your whole life without it. Either way, it will neither benefit nor harm you in living a healthy life. Story 38. I would be fine with 1-hour sessions once a week. Others may prefer short 15-minute sessions daily. People with addiction may want hours daily, allowing sex to interfere with their lives. You decide where you fall within that spectrum. Story 39. Ideally, 3 to 5 days a week is reasonable. That is what my wife and I managed with 3 children, 2 full-time jobs, a house to take care of, and multiple sports to manage. If you do not have all those responsibilities, it could likely be more, assuming the desire is there. Story 40. Well, my hand is not complaining, and until it does, I am going to beat it like it owes me money as often as I want to. Story 41. Like others said, whatever works for both of you is normal. However, a couple of times a week is what most couples have. Story 42. When I was your age, it happened hourly some days, but never gone longer than 24 hours unless I was in another country. When I was in my early 30s, it was not as frequent, but now at 35 going on 36, it occurs once a week and I am happy. Story 43. I've been in a healthy relationship where it was twice a week. I've also been in a healthy relationship that was 2 to 3 times a day, more on weekends. Story 44. 2 to 3 times per week is what generally works for us. We have 2 children under 5 and full-time jobs, so we are exhausted all the time. However, we have been together long enough to know that making time to be intimate is something that brings us closer together. It is fun because sometimes it is passionate and slow, and other times we use each other as sex toys. Keeps us guessing and looking forward to it. Story 45. There is no normal amount. Sex drives vary widely. Try to find someone whose sex drive closely matches yours. I have friends who are open about their sex life. One couple has sex every morning and every evening, sometimes in between. I have other friends who are happy to have sex maybe twice a year. One couple I know has sex about twice a month. My wife and I average around 5 times a week. Remember, you get to choose your future partner. If sex is important to either of you and your frequencies are not aligned, you do not need to stay in that relationship. Story 46. There is no normal exactly as everyone is different. For us, it is at least twice a week. We have been together 23 years so far. Sometimes more, sometimes less, and it fluctuated a bit when we had young children but settled down again when they were older. Story 47. I like it every day myself. I tell everyone I date that if we go a month without having sex, then as far as I'm concerned, we are friends and not dating. Story 48. There actually isn't a state recommendation for this, as strange as it sounds. Honestly, if you share a bed and accidentally rub a body part on your partner's body, expect sex. Being 20 was both great and difficult, but when I was in a good relationship with someone who couldn't keep her hands off me, it was great. Sadly, it ended badly when she couldn't keep her hands off someone else, but I'm pretty much over that betrayal now, 30 years later. So my advice is this: keep it simple. If you both enjoy sex and both feel satisfied afterwards, have sex. If you feel your partner doesn't care if you come or not, talk to him and explain that it is an inconsiderate move. If that doesn't work, maybe find someone else. If you're sure they are just a little immature and there is hope for them, fine, but don't hold on to a bad relationship just to avoid being alone. Trust me, sometimes it really is better being alone. On the other hand, don't throw away a relationship just because of some obstacles. Talk, discuss, and make your opinion clear. If you can't see eye to eye, it may be time to move on. Yes, I know how fractured and nonsensical this sounds, but trust me, life is like that. If I could have gone back to crucial moments in life and said or done something different, it would be interesting to see how my life might have changed. But in the end, it's good to learn to live with your decisions and realize that they probably led you right in life. At least they did for me. Story 49. Everybody has different sex drives, and you will figure out what and how often you want to engage in sexual activity. When I was around your age, the frequency varied from every few weeks when single to every day when in a relationship. Good luck. Story 50. I like to do it once per day except on days that I do not. Do not worry, everything is normal as long as you both are happy with it. Story 51. There is no objective normal amount, it differs for everybody. For my wife and me, it is typically about once or twice a week depending on what we have going on. Sometimes it is a bit more than that since we are trying to conceive. Sometimes it is less than that because we might have other important matters to attend to. That might be low for some people and high for others. Story 52. If you have a girlfriend in your 20s, it depends greatly on your sexual chemistry and how aligned you are. It also depends on whether you have a regular place to have sex. Assuming you have no issue with a place, I have had exes where we would have sex every chance we got, even after a couple of years. It would be 3 to 8 times per week. Living together, I had one ex with whom it was once or twice a week, and 2 others where it was most days. Once you get married and have children, I would say that having sex once a week or more means you are doing pretty well. Day-to-day chaos is a sex killer when you have children. Story 53. To put some numbers to this, I would say the normal range is quite large, anywhere from once a month to once a day. Once you get outside that range, I would say it becomes abnormal. Not necessarily bad, just different. I imagine most people fall within that range. I am excluding a large group of relationships that never have sex for various reasons. But really, once every 2 weeks or 5 times a week would both be totally normal. Story 54. My wife and I got together when we were 15 and 17. We are now 36 and 38. We have sex 3 to 4 times a week, but if we go away, it can be as much as I can handle, 2 to 3 times a day. The frequency has stayed the same throughout our marriage because we are both excellent communicators in and out of the bedroom. The quality of our sex is immeasurably better now than then. We are literally having the best sex of our lives. Story 55. 1. Don't be sex fixated. It's easy to focus on the beginning because it is exciting and you want it all the time. Be careful not to make her feel that it is the only thing you are interested in. On the other hand, in a relationship, you should expect that your partner understands your needs, and you should understand theirs as well. Twice per week of good quality intimacy, plus any opportunity when there is a spark. A look, a kiss that turns hot, or a quick moment in the morning. Story 56. You are 20. Focus on your education, degree, profession, career, and job. You will have plenty of good-looking women lined up to know you and want you. Long before seeking intimacy, women seek men who are providers, own a house or flat, can provide safety and security, and have a job, making long-term reliability a possibility. If you cannot afford a manageable living for yourself, then even rejected women would not want you. Story 57. What is a normal amount of sex? Whatever you both agree on is normal. I was married, and sex had dropped to once a year on our anniversary. I did not expect sex every day but thought it should be at least 3 times a week. This led to several arguments over our lack of sex. She would also get mad that I was masturbating instead of waiting for our anniversary. Eventually, I started cheating because I needed physical affection and was not getting it at home. Many people are in the same situation, so finding sex partners was not hard at all. Soon, I was having sex several times a week and could not have been happier. Then she met a man at a new job she started and filed for divorce. I was happy. Now, instead of once a year, I was having sex 4 to 5 times a week. Story 58. Daily if possible, every other day at the bare minimum. If it is less than that, then it has to be because of an emergency or downtime, not a regular occurrence. A romantic partner you are not actively having sex with on a regular basis is a roommate and a friend, not a romantic partner. Story 59. It is a question of time, money, and sex drive. You are young, supported by your parents, and have a lot of free time. You could probably engage in it every hour while you are awake if your body and mind are capable of that. Story 60. At your age, I was hoping for it daily. Reality kicked in, and a nice silky sock was all I had. Be honest with your partner. It helps a lot. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.